Otaka was born into turmoil, born during bitter civil war. This time they feared it would truly mean the end of their civilization. Then, quite unexpectedly, on one particular day, the war abruptly ended. What they learned that day shocked them out of all desire to fight. That is where Otaka's story began. But such a story cannot be appreciated until knowing how they first got there. You see, their journey actually began thousands and thousands of years ago. Some said they emerged as survivors of a prehistoric cataclysm, but that largely remains speculation. What is certain is that their ancient symbols of language and art depict the Great Tower. They didn't know much about the tower, other than the fact that it was the most visible landmark of Utopia, so they would never be vigilant of the Golden Tower upon the horizon. Generation after generation, their lives consisted of marching and fighting. They marched when they agreed about their direction, and they fought bloody battles when they disagreed. Victors led the way, as more generations passed in search of Utopia. First they walked and rode animals, until the wheel revolutionized their journey. Carriages and platforms eventually facilitated longer voyages. They progressed. Despite such advancements, some heretics wanted to give up and permanently settle. This led to another civil war, the worst one yet. But that war ended when the traveler arrived, just as the prophecies predicted he would. The great traveler hailed from Utopia itself, assuring that the direction was true. Disbelievers had their skepticism, but even they were convinced of the landmarks the traveler mentioned that they would see on their way. The traveler's visit was the perfect catalyst in the exact moment to spur their civilization into a renaissance of art and innovation. Within the span of a few generations, the Industrial Revolution replaced beasts of burden with grand machines, marking exponential leaps in efficiency. Technicians and engineers received prestige as the backbone of their society, their genius celebrated by better and better modes of travel. Eventually, everyone rode upon about a dozen gargantuan vehicles. During an era of peace, the vehicles were connected, forming a single massive mobile city. They were united more than ever before now. Reunited literally and figuratively. After another thousands of years, the city grew, growing in technology and size. The culmination of this resulted in Mobius, the nation of every civilized person in existence. The uncivilized, heretics, and criminals were cast in the wake of united Mobius, left behind to face the horrors of solid ground, where they had no choice but to continue their journey on foot. But before they would be able to reach Utopia, however, they would most likely be ravaged by savages or devoured by wild animals. They said people on the solid ground eventually go mad. In truth, much of the world was unknown to the citizens of Mobius, for their direction was always singular. Forward, ever forward. Progress is paramount. Stopping is not an option. That is why the settlements of unmoving savages before them were doomed. They stopped for their earliest encounters with the odd stationary cities out of sheer curiosity, but soon they decided that the land dwellers' lives were not worth the detour. It became easier to roll them over. After a few years of this, it became even easier, like stepping on an ant. Despite their unity, a millennium of trudging through the horizon took its toll on the civilization. The cost was a great war that many feared would destroy Mobius and end progress. This brings me to the year of Otaka's birth, when the war suddenly ended, just when it was at its bloodiest apex. They saw the tower. Their path was true after all. Though invisible to the naked eye, on the clearest of days with a telescope on the highest building, where the planet's curvature was slightly negated, the glorious golden tower could be seen faded by the atmosphere, but not mistakable. That discovery was just all that was needed to stop the violence. In that very moment, the bloody battle became a most jubilant celebration. Two grappling opponents shifting their embrace into a loving hug. Almost there, so they said. Like the era of the coming of the traveler long ago, they thought their journey would soon end. There was always a preacher there shouting about the last of days, but Otaka himself grew faster than the tower on the horizon. The tower, like a mirage, stayed ahead of them no matter what. Utopia itself must have been moving, which made sense since there was no doubt shared the same enlightened values of Mobius. Unfortunately, this meant that they would never reach it, unless their scientists and engineers could find a way to make Mobius move faster. So they worked tirelessly, their ingenuity spawning new discoveries and branches of science. They went from foot to hoof, to wheel, to tread, to anti-gravity rail, to quantum oscillation drive. Despite their acceleration, they couldn't close the gap. Scouts sped forward, but they always lost communication with them, and none ever returned. Philosophers questioned how the city was able to move to be close enough to see it, but never closer. Either Utopia had gained speed, or hasn't been moving until Mobius got close. Either pick means Utopia was fleeing from them. One argument was that it was a trial, that they would reach Utopia once they were worthy of reaching Utopia. Philosophers who proposed other ideas quickly became an endangered species. There was nowhere to hide in Mobius, but those skeptical thinkers went missing nonetheless. Few of them questioned the consensus anymore. Otaka served as the Grand General Commissioner during the greatest strides in progress. The tower on the horizon grew bigger than ever in his administration, even visible to the naked eye at one point. Due to the unique timing of Otaka's birth, along with the subsequent contributions, people compared him to the great traveler, arriving at just the right moment to spur them forward. This comparison always humbled Otaka. His reputation demanded it, so Otaka ran for president of United Mobius. The election, like their history, was bitter and divisive. Otaka honestly wished to just do what was required to increase technological progress, as he was a political outsider. Traditionalists did everything they could to smear him. The introverted Otaka refused to play politics as usual, not even responding, which is exactly what got him elected. He was just as shocked as elite, out-of-touch opponents. His passions were too wrapped up in engineering to understand human nature. Palpable unease afflicted their governments after his election. This perplexed him. After all, his life work proved that he would strive to leave the status quo in their wake and find success. So why the trepidation? The only answer he thought of was that they preferred the status quo. That was more true than he would realize. The truth wouldn't come out until his first top-secret meeting. Otaka stood in front of the council members, ready for a briefing on all matters classified. Their faces looked stark, concerned. After they told him, he wished he didn't know. He wished he never ran for office. He wished he could go back in time to blissful ignorance, where he could concentrate on how to get them moving faster. There was such a simpler time. Instead, he fell to his knees with the weight of their confession. There was no tower. There was no utopia. It was projection from their own city. "Look how far we've come," they told Otaka. "We're working together, constantly improving our way of life, all in our united goal of reaching utopia. It doesn't matter that the destination isn't real," they assured, "because the journey was real, and that was all that truly mattered. Without this common goal, our civilization will be scattered into the winds," he said, "reducing to scraping a living out of the dirt once more like our savage ancestors. Look at us now, though, floating above the dirty ground, everyone sharing a purpose, people having meaning in their lives, living in precision and harmony despite our political disagreements. Society was better than it had ever been, all because it strove to solve its non-existent problem. The common folk were busy in their work, hopeful in their work, busy in their progress, while the elites, more than happy to rule them, safe in their lie to keep the people under their control. The traveler of ancient history was also a lie. A person sent far ahead of the convoy at the start of the war, only to return at a strategic prophetic point and tell them what was ahead. first in great detail, and then use vagueness to placate the masses who saw what they wanted to see. The first sighting during the tower of the year of Otaka's birth was also a contrivance designed to stop another war. All the brave scouts never to return were killed by a remote detonation. It was all a lie. No wonder every president seemed to change after being elected. No wonder they never achieved their quite achievable goals during their campaigns. For those promises were built upon ignorance. Now Otaka knew the truth of their society built upon a lie. The council, clearly nervous on how this outsider would proceed with this information, needed reassurance that the secret would remain safe with him. But that was also a lie. Otaka knew he had to tell them that in order to get out of the meeting alive. So he attempted to beguile them, agreeing that the end justified the means, a tautology where the ends and the means were the same thing. The council didn't seem too convinced, but they let him go nonetheless. In truth, Otaka did not know what he was going to do. Should he tell the people, simultaneously ridding them of their ignorance and their hope? He felt that that would be selfish, for indeed he wished he didn't know the truth, and that he could go back to their similar time of working toward their common goal. Then again, the idealist in him argued that the people had the right to their own destinies. Sometime, people don't like what's best for us, he told himself. Is a life spent working for a lie, a life wasted? At last, he decided to let the people take their lives into their own hands, letting them decide for themselves what value they have. No longer would they be devoted to a lie. Henceforth, they would be devoted to themselves and each other. He would tell the truth, the classified information during his first speech in United Mobius. At last, their journey of thousands of years would end. He strategically positioned his security so neither microphone or the broadcasts would be cut. So the powers that he would know exactly what he was up to once his shaky voice would begin. The speech was somber at first. Otaka gravely revealed the lie of which the society was built. He scanned through the crowd, expecting to see fear in the council members' faces, but he saw only disappointment in their eyes. Otaka trudged onward, attempting to find new hope for the people, assuring them that they would find their own means, and that they didn't need this lie to live happy and fulfilling lives. With each assurance, however, Otaka felt dismay growing with unease. The crowd grew restless. He began to worry for the council members' safety, who, although guilty and perpetuated the age-old lie, did not deserve to die. Yet, that is exactly what Otaka feared would happen. The crowd grew loud and angry. Otaka barely heard the words coming out of his own mouth. At the end of his speech, upon his bold demand to bring United Mobius for a stop for the first time in living memory, much to Otaka's shock, the people charged at him, leaving the council members completely unscathed. A mob violently seized each of his limbs, carrying him away, leaving him completely to their mercy. Unable to resist, and unable to reason with them, he saw their faces, filled with disgust and fury. He realized only too late the gravity of his unforgivable action. Of course, he knew blasphemy was no longer legitimate, but the people knew of no such thing. They were so entwined with a lie that they relied upon it. They lived for it. They would die for it. They'd even kill for it. It happened quickly. The rough ropes scratched his neck, but he wouldn't feel that for long. Suddenly, he felt his body falling, and his stomach leap into his chest, fingertips tingling. Then everything went black, and he heard the angry jeers of the people no more. United Mobius trudged onward to a destination that never was or will be. Or maybe they had rolled over it long ago. Regardless, the elites forever reaped from the power of the devotion of their obedient sheep.